Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. I'm the mayor, Heath Sheeran, and the host of this podcast. And I've got my good friend, Kelly Smith, about to join me. And I can't wait for you to check out this conversation. It's going to be so much fun. But before I do, I got to talk about my good friends over at Canopy Connect. I couldn't do this show without them. Check them out. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath and check it out. You guys know them as the one-click solution to getting the deck pages you need, but now they can help you collect information. As we all know, collecting information in the insurance industry sucks. Most agencies, y'all don't have a well-defined data intake stage for your quoting process. A lot of times it's the part of the initial quote process that's tough to get through, or it's bundled with the advisory call. You can abandon those forms and abandon the interrogations. Really, you can just focus on your client and doing what's best for them using the intake platform from Canopy Connect. They have custom forms that can enrich your data, all the things. They help you in so many ways. If you're not using Canopy Connect, I don't know what you're doing. Canopy Connect gets the insurance data so you can get all the access you need. You can see the premiums, the coverages. You can help with the driver's list, the loss runs, all the things. Go to usecanopy.com/Heath and check out all the things they have going on. Also, my good friends over at OneFort. OneFort is AI for insurance agencies. You can save time and win more commercial P&C by automating submissions, quoting, and binding with AI. It's smarter with the automated workflows to reduce costs. It's faster with AI quoting and servicing, and it's easier to offload those manual tasks. And it all works through a unique system, and it's reading your emails. It's giving you information based on what you already have right there at your fingertips. Go to onefort.ai and tell them the mayor sent you. You'll be so glad that you did. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to get out of the way, and I can't wait to bring in my good friend Kelly and have a phenomenal conversation with her. Ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Smith. Kelly Smith, what's happening, sister?
Hey there, not too much. Just got back from a nice conference at the PIA in Danville. It was PIA of Virginia, North Carolina. So
That was the
got
first
back
year they've
from
done it
that.
in Danville, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was at the casino, which makes everything that much more fun, right?
Heck yeah, dude. So how was that? I mean, did people go to the casino more than the events, or did they actually come to the events?
No, there was people at the events during the day, but in the evening, I think it was a free for all for
Yeah,
going and seeing if you could win some money.
I hear you. I've been to several conferences at casinos and spoken at several conferences at casinos, and I'm like, where is everybody? And then they come in like, I just won so much money on this slot or whatever. I'm like, dang it. Competing with the
Yeah.
slot machines and the poker tables and blackjack is impossible.
It
Now
was a
you,
really nice venue though. It's brand new to Danville. Danville's a kind of small town, so they brought in that casino and they put a Gordon Ramsay's kitchen in there. So we had a
oh,
great
dude.
lunch.
Yeah, you
Yes.
did. So do you play any games like that? I won't tell anybody. Are
I'm
you are
not
you nobody's listening. It's
if I do
just
anything at
me.
slots.
It's
Yeah.
just me, you, and a couple thousand people. No big deal. You do a couple. Do you do the penny slots?
Yeah, just the easy ones where like if I put 20 bucks in, I might win 20 bucks back or not. And that's like the extent of my gambling.
Yeah.
I'm not to throw a couple $100 into anything because
Right.
I'm too scared. Like I'll lose, guaranteed.
No, it's hilarious. My son, he's a senior. Actually, he just graduated, but he just got off his senior trip. And they went on a cruise, and when you're in the water, you can be at a casino at 18. And so he was all excited, and he was like, "I'm going in. Can you send me some money, Dad?" And I sent him like $100 or whatever. And he called me like literally 5 minutes later. He was like, "Well, that's gone." And I was like, "What did you do?" He was like, "I went to a slot machine like you told me, and I hit max bet like you told me." I was like, "On the pennies." He was like, "Oh, well, I thought." I was like, "Oh, you're an idiot." So he was like, "It was like 20 spins, and I was done." And I was like, "Yeah, doesn't take much." So he
No, it
learned really
definitely
quick.
doesn't.
He learned really quick in 10 minutes how you could lose $100, but kind of funny. But so Tell me real quick before we get too deep into Casino Town. Let's talk about Kelly for a minute. Let's take a walk down memory lane. You tell me a little bit about you and what brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of was born in insurance. My grandfather started an independent agency in Richmond years and years ago. We actually just celebrated his 95th birthday party on Saturday. So I think all those years of insurance and walking the golf course and drinking good wine have paid off for him. At 95, he's doing great, looks amazing, still walking around. So he started the agency, and then it went to my dad when he retired. And then I started, I mean, literally grew up in the agency, hiding under desks, messing up people's paper files, as a 10-year-old. And then in high school, I worked part-time at the agency, continued to work part-time through college. I went to college to be a teacher, decided teaching was not for me. I loved my children, but not necessarily having a classroom full of 5-year-olds. So went to work full time at the agency, started out at the front desk, just answering phone calls, doing mail, helping with certificates of insurance. Back then, you had to actually print accords and mail out submissions to all the different carriers. So I can remember sitting in the conference room and the table being completely full of COIs or completely full of accords that we were mailing out. So did that for a long time, then went into personal lines account management and then commercial lines account management. And then towards the end was helping my dad with running the agency. He ended up selling the agency. And so part of the buy sell was that I would stay for 3 years and help convert all the clients over to the new owner. Stayed for 4 years. It was wonderful. At that point, it was 17 years that I had been working at the agency. And I was like, man, it's time to do something else. So went to a carrier and did middle market underwriting, and then middle market sales. And from there is when I got to know everybody over at First Choice, and transitioned over into the role I'm at now, overseeing the Mid Atlantic for First Choice.
Dude, what a journey. And so many things in common there. And I think you and I probably talked about this, since we worked together, we've hung out outside of that, is like, I'm that second generation. So I grew up in the insurance industry as well. And again, when you said hiding under desk and messing up stuff, like I like give me PTSD. I do the same thing. And I would, go in and play around and, mess with people's stuff. And I can remember like vividly one time, one of my dad's agents, I was working on something and I spilt my Kool-Aid juice pouch or whatever all over her papers. And she was like, oh my God, this is like so important. And back then, again, papers, like there was no digital files. She was like, you screwed up. And I was like, oh my God, it didn't matter how cute I was in trouble. And so, and then I remember like vividly some of those memories like that. So I can remember that. That's awesome. And my dad's 83, still slinging insurance. And so, he always like, you should take over. And I could not work with my dad. I'd rather have my dad as my father than my boss. And so I started my own agency and went from there. But I can remember those days. And then also did the carrier thing. And so going into the carrier thing, what was that for you? Like having that agency background that give you a different perception and, a different viewpoint from other sales reps?
Yes, absolutely. Because when you've never spent any time in an agency in the seat, trying to get quotes out, trying to, do submissions, answer underwriting questions while you have somebody, hounding you, where's my quote? When are we going to have this ready? I've got COIs that need to go out. The urgency, you realize is like, it's legit. And until you've sat in that seat as an underwriter or as a salesperson, it's really hard to understand it. And so coming from agency over to underwriting and then sales, when somebody called me, I understood, hey, this needs to happen right now. Like there's somebody hounding them. That's why they're calling me. And like, we've got to get this quote turned around. It shouldn't take, weeks to get a quote turned around. So yeah, very different perspective, which was helpful for our team because the team, a lot of times people start on the carrier side and stay on the carrier side. You don't see a ton going from agency to carrier. And so when you're working with underwriters, whether it's desk underwriters or field underwriters, trying to help them understand where the agent's coming from and like why it's important. Well, it's important because, we've got this middle market account we're trying to push out and they have people asking for renewal certificates, weeks in advance of those X dates. And so just trying to help the underwriters understand why was really helpful, and grateful for the service at the agency because it just gives you such a different perspective.
Yeah. And then going into where you're at now with First Choice, now you're getting back into working with agencies again at a different level and working with, agency owners and trying to grow that. And you probably have a lot of good insights to bring to them from, seeing your dad do that. And then what I think is even cooler is, with your dad, selling the agency and then Marshberry doing all the M&A activity that we do there. There's got to be some pretty cool connections there for you working at Marshberry and First Choice.
Yeah, there definitely is. Help seeing working in almost every single role within the agency, whether it was the front desk to personal lines to commercial lines to producer to helping run the agency, and then also going through, a sale and the transition from one AMS to another. Anybody that's been through an AMS, conversion knows how that feels. And so, just being able to see all aspects of it, and then also being able to see sales and underwriting on the carrier side, you're able to put all that into perspective in this role because, in this role, I'm helping all of my members with everything, whether it be new carrier appointments, whether it be appetite, whether it be profit sharing, or maybe talking about, a sale and how does that look before the sale, during the sale, the years after the sale. So yeah, it's all been huge in helping me help my members walk through some of the same journeys that our family's agency walked through.
Yeah. And so did you have any brothers or sisters or, any other siblings that got into the business with you?
Yes, so I'm the oldest. I have one sister and four brothers. My sister worked in the agency for all of like 2 months and was like, this is not for me. She actually is, I call her a rodeo cowgirl, but she's really into riding horses and has a
Oh, that's
barn and
awesome.
does team roping. And like that was her passion and that was the path she went down. None of my brothers had any interest in insurance at all. And so I was the only one. I don't know. Like I'm super grateful. And
Yeah,
I talk to
dude.
my sister all the time and I'm like, you should have done insurance because you could have sold anything in the equine or farm field
Oh,
and like
for
she would have
sure.
been great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But
I just wondered if you had some like stories of working with your family in that. And but again, it's funny that you're like, my sister made it all of like 2 months.
she did. She was like, I can't sit at a desk all day. And I was like, it's only like to sit. And that's, I have a daughter. My daughter is a rising senior in high school, and I am encouraging, of course, the insurance industry for her.
Yeah.
And she happens to be right now at App State down in North Carolina at
Yeah.
their insurance camp. And I've learned with the younger generation, like insurance is like a bad word. Like you cannot say that word. You have to
Right.
say anything but insurance. Like risk management is
Yep.
much sounds so much more appealing than
Oh yeah.
insurance. It's like trying to give your dog like a pill, but you have to like wrap it in cheese. And like, that's how I'm like feeding
Right.
it to my daughter. I'm like, it's risk management camp, honey, not insurance camp.
Well, yeah, dude, it sounds so dorky, going to insurance
Yes.
camp. Do they have like rope swings and rivers? Do they swim in and do stuff like that too?
So yes, it's actually the Big Eye of North Carolina.
Oh
Gave a
yeah.
grant, I believe, to App State, and this is their first time having insurance. Well, risk management camp is what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
And they have actually done a lot of things to make it really fun for them. So of course, they're sitting in and they're listening to all the different roles that you can have in insurance, whether it's claims or
Yeah.
sales or producer, agency owner. But they're also taking them, they did a like a ropes course, like a high up in the sky.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And they talked about how would you insure this? What risks would you have to
Oh,
think about?
nice. Nice.
Yeah. So they did that to make it really fun. They did some, and this is just what I've been getting on Snap, because this younger generation, they only communicate on
Yeah.
Snap.
Oh
I can
yeah.
text her and get no response, but I snap her and it's instant.
A
It's
hundred percent.
wild.
A
But
hundred
yeah,
percent.
she last night they had a dinner up on top of one of the mountains down there in the Appalachian Mountains, and they did a community service event. And so of course, she's like, Mom, I don't know. This might be boring. And I'm like, honey, you have to learn it. But as soon as you learn it, then is when it becomes fun. Then you get to go out into the field and you can
Yeah.
be a producer if you want. You can be a sales rep for a carrier. You can play golf. You can go out to conferences like the one I was at yesterday. We had a great time at the casino, having a great
Yeah.
lunch, networking. And so just trying to help her. And then her best friend went with her as well. So, of course, I'm encouraging insurance for her best friend. And I'm like, no matter what industry you go into, there's going to be a time of learning and sitting down and learning and listening and reading. That might not be super thrilling and exciting, but I promise you, this industry is incredible. The opportunities are
Oh yeah.
just endless, and you can go any direction. You want to do marketing, you can do that. You want to do podcasts, you can do that. Like there's so many
Heck yeah.
avenues within insurance
Oh
where you
yeah.
can do very well. So
It's funny you said my wife and I, and several friends of ours have gone. There's University of Central Arkansas has a great insurance and risk management degree program, and we went and spoke to we go frequently and speak to the school and talk to different students. And we did a session where there was a panel discussion, and I was on there, and my wife and a couple other people, and we were going through, and I had to, raise hands. Have you ever heard of this or heard of that? And like nobody, like all they understood was, the sleazy, insurance salesman. That was it. And I was like, oh my gosh, or I would say, do you know anything about car insurance? Or I'd ask them. Nobody knew anything. It's like you said, it's like a bad word, or it's like like, I don't know what to call it, but it was terrible. For
yeah,
me to sit there with them and see the blank look on their faces of like, and I would even ask them, because they're in the program, and I'm like, what are you hoping to do when you get out of that? Every single one of them, and this was several years back, but they were like, they want to go work for a carrier because they would get a guaranteed salary, and all of them were afraid of going the route of, potentially 1099 or, salesperson. And so, I'm hoping, and I'm sure they have, because Albie does a good job at anything he does in Big Eye, North Carolina, but it's like, helping them to realize that there's so much potential anywhere you do want to go. And then after we did that session, it was like, oh, you have a podcast. And this guy on the panel is an underwriter. This guy on the panel is a producer. And it was like, there's a lot of different ways you could go. And my wife was running an association at the time. So, as you go through that, and you've been in all those seats as well, and you've worked at the association, you're on the boards, you do all the things. What do you talk to her about when or what are you hoping that she wants to get into, or you just like hope that she just gets into the industry?
yeah, I think anything in the industry would be a great start for her. And her best friend, her mother happens to own an independent insurance agency. And so
Hmm.
the two of them are, they're two best friends. I mean, they're attached at the hip. So they're
Oh
getting
yeah.
insurance, shoved down their throat from both moms. It's me over here on this side, whether it's
Yeah.
carrier or network or whatever. And then her mom owning an agency, being like, hey, one day you can work for me and take over the agency if you're interested.
Yeah.
And there's so many opportunities and the work-life balance that you can have in this industry. Even, I mean, if you're a producer, you can set your own schedule,
Yeah.
you can. And even on like, if you're a territory sales rep, I mean, you're making your own schedule. And as a working mom who has two children,
Yeah.
I just finished up my MBA earlier this year. When you're trying to
Congrats.
juggle, thank you, when you're trying to juggle all of that flexibility that this industry gives you is just it's priceless. It really is. And so trying to
100%.
help her see that. And she knows because there's been so many times that I've had to leave and go pick her up from volleyball or go pick up my son from his sporting events. And you can't do that. Her other consideration is nursing. And I'm like, honey, if you're in a 12-hour shift at a hospital, you're not leaving. Like that
No.
is it. Yes. So there's so much
Yeah.
opportunity and they get so stuck on home insurance, car insurance. There's so much more than that in this industry. And you can start with that. Of course, it's a great place to start because you got to
100%.
understand the foundations, but you can go so many places from that. I just met with a producer who broke off to start his own independent agency, which he's very excited about last week. And he was talking about how he has set up his agency to where he has two people that are doing all the quoting for him. They're working from home. This is also a very remote friendly industry. So he's got two guys working for him. One's doing the quotes, one's doing the processing, and he's out doing sales. He's out playing golf, he's out fishing, he's out going, to different social events. And like that is a very fun and exciting
Heck yeah.
aspect of insurance that a lot of young children don't even think about because they think about, oh, an auto claim. How boring.
I got to interrupt and break in really quickly here on this conversation so that I can talk to you about my good friends over at Viva VAs. Viva is not like just any other VA company you've heard about. Why people choose them is they are insurance trained associates. They are licensed insurance agents in a lot of ways, and they help you manage those capacity services. They can help you reclaim 20 plus hours a week by offloading those quoting and policy servings and servicing and carrier management. Every process is recorded and documented for your agency's success playbook. That way you get the full experience. A lot of people are saying, oh, AI is going to replace my staff or replace my VAs. No, not at all. Check out Viva and you can understand why and how that a good VA from Viva is going to make your agency that much better. Go to vivavs.com and check it out. Tell them the mayor sent you. Now let's get back to Kelly. 100%. Well, one of the other things I was going to try to get into with you before, because I know we could get caught up and then we look up and it's been too long, but you it seems to be, from all our conversations and what I know about you, you're pretty big on education. Obviously, you just got your NBA, your MBA. You're not in the NBA, sorry, your MBA. And then
you would not want me there.
And then, you have a couple designations. You're sending your daughter to insurance camp, which still cracks me up. So what is that for you? Was that something that your dad instilled in you? Or is that something that your family instilled in you? Is that something like you just knew, like, I want to learn everything I can about the industry? Or was it like, what was that for you? Was that self-motivated? Or was that something incentivized?
So this is something you probably don't know about me. I was homeschooled. And when you are
Did not.
homeschooled, yeah,
You're
I
not a
was
dork at
homeschooled.
all. So I would have
Well,
never guessed that you were homeschooled.
not everybody that's homeschooled is a dork.
I know.
But
I'm
I
just
will
kidding.
say
I
that
just
my
offended half my
education,
audience.
I will say that my education, when I was homeschooled, I mean, it was, it was the best my mom could do with all the things that she had going on with the
Yeah.
kids, and we had a farm and literally had a milk cow. There was all kinds of things going on. And when I decided to go to college, I was very, very behind academically. And realizing that made me like, I could have just said, hey, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to work at the agency, done deal. Which is,
Yeah.
how they had kind of set me up for was, hey, just
Yeah.
go work for the agency. You don't need to go to college. But my aunt did really well. She was a senior VP at one of the local power companies. And every time I'd go to a family dinner or anything, you better go to college. You better go to college.
Yeah.
You get your degree. And she was constantly telling me that. And I was like, well, there's an opportunity to move out because every, 17, 18-year-old wants to move out and go to school. And so I did, but it was a struggle. My undergrad, the first couple of years, because I was so behind, was very hard. We didn't do any standardized testing because we had a religious exemption, this whole thing. So my education was way behind. And so through that journey, I realized how important education was, especially when I looked at some of my siblings that didn't go to college. And so I went through, my undergrad and finally, got that. I ended up having my kids, got two kids, a boy and a girl, and decided, hey, I want them to see like what you can do. Like you can go beyond your undergrad.
Yeah.
And so I decided to started with I have my CRIS designation, construction risk insurance specialist. I got that while I was at the agency. And then I went on to my CPCU while I was at the carrier side, completed that a few years ago, and then decided, what the heck, let's get the MBA in insurance, which who knew there was an MBA in insurance, but there is.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. And so I got that earlier this year. And so I don't know if it was self-motivation or if it was just waking up one day and realizing how
No, that's a heck of
important
a story.
education is. Yeah.
Dude, that's a heck of a story to hear, because I always thought, again, for the audience that's homeschooled, please forgive me. This is all in jest. Kelly and I are friends, but I always seriously thought that like homeschooled kids were like the most brilliant kids ever, and they got this, upper echelon education because they're at home all day. All they have to do is learn, and they don't have to go to school and worry about, changing classes and walking in the hallways and all that. So I just thought y'all were just, and so to hear that you were going into college a little bit behind was a little bit of a shock, but to hear you, overcome that and get those different designations, that's incredible. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so is that something for you? Obviously you're imparting that into your kids, but when you talk to agents, now even at First Choice, do you talk about the importance of getting those designations? Is that something that you bring up?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so many organizations that offer it. PIA here in Virginia does a lot with the CIC, and a lot of this stuff you can get covered by the company that you're working for. Like if cost is a concern,
Yeah.
there are grants out there. There's scholarships. CPCU has a great scholarship program. If you're not able to afford it yourself, there are ways to get that paid for, and what you learn through it is so valuable because you see beyond the day to day. When I was working at the agency, I knew exactly how to do what I was doing, and that was it. I didn't see beyond that. If I wasn't writing an account on, I don't know, cargo or trucking, like how would I have ever learned about that if I hadn't
Right.
taken these classes? And then as soon as you learn the ins and outs of trucking, now all of a sudden you can go after trucking, and
Yeah.
like the ability to grow your agency just by taking some of these courses and learning about something you don't know so that you can become well versed in it so that you can start targeting that and maybe develop some sort of niche market that can help your agency grow. So yes, I'm a huge fan of continuing education.
Yeah,
My
dude. I think that's
husband
awesome.
jokes, he's like, "Are you going back to school again anytime soon?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna take a break. I got to get two kids through college,
Right.
and then maybe."
Well, and then like, if I'm not mistaken, does your husband work for a school system?
He does.
That's
He's a
awesome.
construction project manager for Chesterfield County School.
Yeah,
So,
look at you. Yeah, I got to
yeah.
meet him. We're out sweating our rear ends off doing like, manual labor working at the school. And all of a sudden, this handsome dude pulls up with a coffee drink for Kelly. And I'm like, what in the world? You got the Uber driver to bring you, he's like, no, it's my husband. I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Um,
Yes.
that's pretty cool. She's wiping the sweat off and drinking her Starbucks. Guys, it was awesome. But that being said, like obviously we did that for Marshberry, that service project, but you're heavily involved in associations and community stuff, and you're big involved in the industry itself. And is that something again that was instilled? Like, was your dad involved heavily in that kind of stuff, or you just thought this is a way for me to give back to an industry that I love so much, or both?
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He was, pretty tied up in running the
I
agency.
bet.
A lot of it is this curiosity that I can never seem to get
Yeah,
away from. And like, I
nothing
want
wrong
to
with that.
know. Yeah, like I want to know. And like, that's why I'm on the legislative committee for the Big I of Virginia, because like I want to know what is going on in the industry. Um, that's the same
Love
way
it.
with the CPCU. Like, that's why I'm still a member there and active, is because one, I want to be involved, and two, I want the people that are considering it, and because a lot of it's younger generation, younger than me,
Yeah.
and I want them to see like where can this take you, this industry. It's so much better than the word insurance. VCU they're the local college here. They have a great risk management program, and I'll go to their events and talk to the students. A lot of them end up there because they go for a business major and they're like, "What do I do now?" Well, here's insurance. Let's make that our major. And they don't know anything
Yeah.
about it. They have no idea the career paths that, could unfold for them. And so I love being able to talk to them about that. Just because I've been in so many, I've seen different avenues, especially for women,
Yeah.
how they can be successful. So
That's awesome. And I appreciate that. And it's no wonder hearing your story and to come up from, being in the agency and going to school, doing all this, you have been recognized in several different awards, from different levels, and marketing rep of the year, and you've won, other awards throughout. And now I just found out recently at an event I'm going to be speaking at, you're going to be recognized, for with by Insurance Business Rising Stars Award. Tell me a little bit about what that means to you to be recognized for marketing rep awards or different awards throughout your career, and then now leading up to this event in Santa Monica that you're being recognized as. Was it Rising Stars Under 40? Is that what the award is?
Yeah, it's Rising Stars. You have to be under 40 to qualify. And I barely made the cutoff because I turned 40 this year. So
Well, I was going to say,
barely made
people
that
are doing
cutoff.
the math and they're thinking, well, 20 years in the industry, wait a minute, like, how does that work if she's under 40? But, now they understand. But anyhow, go ahead. Tell me a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible because somebody who, was raised so conservative and like I said, homeschooled and always thought that, my destiny was to be a stay-at-home mom, raising children. I think that when I went to school and did my student teaching, I realized that I would much rather go to work than stay at home with a bunch of kids all day. But I love my children and the weekends and summers were great, but I needed to work. I wanted to work. And, to come from that to, being recognized for awards that I didn't even know existed when I came into this industry is just incredible. Because, in my mind, I'm just the girl who woke up and was curious and just this path, I didn't know where it was going to take me. And I'm super grateful, for all the opportunities that I've been given and to be recognized like this is just incredible. I mean, whoever would have thought, like not me. And so it's great. And it's a wonderful example for my children.
Yeah.
And then also, the other people that I'm mentoring, we've got people at work that I'm mentoring some students at VCU. And, for them to see, hey, a working mom that came from poor education,
Yeah.
that this is, you can get there if you're curious and if you want to learn and if you're willing to put in the work, the options are just endless. So it's awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Insurance Business puts this on, and I'm sure you've probably heard of Insurance Business. For those who are listening, you haven't, you should check it out. They got publication, they got websites, they got all things going on. They put this event on in Santa Monica. It's their second year. And I got to attend and speak last year. And it's a fantastic event. It's called Insurance Fest. Last year was called Future Fest. And, it's unlike any other event I've ever been to. And Kelly and I have been to a lot of events, but this one has a lot of cool stuff going on throughout the day. For me, I equate it to an ADHD person's like dream come true because there's so much going on at one time. There's a DJ playing music the whole time. You got speakers on stages everywhere. You got putt putt going in the corner. You got yoga going on in one other corner. You got wine tastings and bowling and all kinds of cool stuff going on the pier. And you got the Ferris wheel behind you. It's unreal. But then as a part of that, Rising Stars, they have this award ceremony. They give different awards out, and her getting this award, pretty cool. If you get a chance, it's not too late to register. I think we're less than a month out, but you can still register. Go check that out. And I've got some free passes left. If anybody wants that, reach out to me. But back to regularly scheduled programming. Kelly, tell me a little bit, if you don't mind. Like, so in the last few minutes, being, going from the agency world into the carrier world, and then now, transitioning over the last little bit at, it's been over a year now at First
Yeah.
Choice now?
It was just my 1 year anniversary on
Yeah.
Monday. So yes.
And you're able to not only, this is what I think is cool, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this real quick. Is you're not only you're building a territory and you're managing, but you're also managing people. Like you have a couple of people underneath you that are building territories, and now you're able to impart some of that wisdom. I know you said you mentioned mentoring other women and stuff, but what is that like to have employees, so to speak, or have people underneath you that you're being able to train and work with? Is that pretty cool for you? What is that like for you?
It is because of my experience, at the agency and on the carrier side too. When they come to me asking questions, I've got a pretty good grasp and understanding on how everything works at an agency, and I'm able to help share that knowledge with them. And so just being able to share what I know has been incredible. And it's both with the people that are reporting to me and then also with our members. I can't tell you how many times I get asked questions about, well, did you ever switch AMSs? How much did you pay your producer at your agency? And then, of course, with everything that Marshberry has, I take my knowledge and then combine it with the data, that we have to help give them some guidance on next steps. Of course, it's their agency. They can make whatever decisions they want, but we're able to give them some advice along the way so that they can make good decisions for their agency and for their insureds to help grow their business.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of networks out there, a lot of good ones out there. What, in your words, what do you think, or not think, but what separates First Choice from other networks out there? What makes you guys or us different from the other network offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, besides being the number one, because that's always fun, right? Being number one for Insurance Journal, third year in a row. Woo. But aside from that, I think it's how we began. We began, our background was a lot of nationwide agents that were captive and they became independent. And
Yeah,
then they started First Choice. And, whenever I talk to somebody about a network, their first thought is, oh, I don't want to give up control. I want to own my own
right,
agency.
right.
Well, we started from people who had handcuffs on essentially and were given freedom and then started First Choice. Like, why would anybody want to go backwards? So our organization is set up to keep the independent agent independent. And so they still own 100% of their business. We're just here to help them get to revenue that they can't get to on their own because of scale. When you have as much premium as we do aggregated, we're able to hit, brackets on that profit sharing grid that a standalone agency on their own could never hit. And so I think it's our background, how we started. Of course, our leadership is incredible. That's why I'm here. The whole reason I even made this switch was because of Keith Captain and my relationship with him and how awesome of a guy he is. And I believe in his vision. I believe in everything that he's doing for the company. And I really think that all those things combined set us apart from some of the other networks. Our family's agency was actually part of a network. That network I won't name who it was or what it was, but I had a big understanding of how networks worked already before I came over. And when I learned about First Choice and how like the terms and conditions were so favorable, and it was just, I was like, this is almost too good to be true. And it was like, no, this is it. And like every time I sit down and talk to somebody about it, there's always that, well, what's the catch? I'm like, well, there is no catch. Like this was designed by independent agents for independent agents. Like there is no catch. And so that is
100%.
something that I love. Yeah, that I love about working here is that I truly believe in who we are and what we offer. And that's critical to having fun at work because if you're having fun, then you're going to be successful.
Exactly. And I also love the, going back to what you talked about earlier with women, and you mentoring women and being a part of it, like how important that is to you within, First Choice Marshberry family. There's so many women in leadership that are so strong and so influential. And, I think about, Diane, and I, think about you there, and I think about Brooke Lou, and you think about even one of my favorite people that I've met, so far there is Jen, who works, with Keith, and how, just unbelievable she is. And she's a powerhouse leader in that, company. And, you know, between me and you, I don't think Keith would be where he is without her. She's unbelievable.
She's amazing.
Unbelievable.
We call her, yeah, she's our office mom, is what we call her. And
Dude.
yeah, she's incredible.
She's unbelievable. Yeah. So every time I see her, she's just busy doing something and making something right. But anyhow, dude, I'm already like out of time and I hate it. But I really appreciate you, coming in to the show and hanging out with me and letting me highlight you a little bit and letting me talk a little bit about, the Rising Stars Award. And I know that you don't like to talk about yourself and awards and whatnot, but it was cool to be able to embarrass you and talk about that a little bit. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Keith. And I will see you soon.
Yes, you will. And then if someone wants to reach out to you or talk to you with that, what's the best way they could find you? Are you a LinkedIn person? Are you more of
Yes,
email? Where can they find you?
either is fine. I'm definitely on LinkedIn. Kelly Smith, you can find me, type in First Choice. I'm sure I'll pop right up. And then my email and my phone number are also linked there.
And then you run the Mid-Atlantic region. How many? What states does that include?
So it's New Jersey down to North Carolina, on
Okay.
the East Coast. So New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, DC.
If you're
So
in
yeah.
that area listening to the show right now and you want to learn more about First Choice, reach out to Kelly. And I believe it's kelly.smith at Marshberry if you wanted to hear
Absolutely.
more. And then if you're outside that area and you want to learn more, you can just go to the website or you can reach out to me or Kelly as well, and she'll connect you with the right people. And so, again, thank you. And thank you, audience, for listening. And I'm excited to get this one out there. So have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Heath.
Hang on.
All right.